Chapter 1 Prologue. One commits crimes of passion and crimes of logic. The line that separates them is not clear, but the penal code distinguishes between them on the concept of premeditation. We are now living in the era of premeditation and perfect crime. Our criminals are no longer those helpless children who plead love as their excuse. On the contrary, they are adults, and their alibi is an irrefutable one, philosophy, which can be used for anything, even for transforming murderers into judges. These words were written by Albert Camus in the preface of his novel, The Rebel. He, for all his masterly discontent, did not know that in a country not too distant from his own France, one engendered and nurtured in the spirit of French thought, in fact, Romania, the paroxysm of a whole series of crimes was reached in secrecy after August 23, 1944, crimes of a nature so different and unnatural that neither Camus nor any other Westerner could have believed them possible, or even have imagined them. An operation to invert and reverse human nature is something that defies the imagination of any normal human being. Except for the victims and their torturers, only a very few, persons who have had the opportunity of informing themselves can give credence to those crimes, and furthermore can understand the deeper significance lying beneath the physical facts. It is true that the last 4 decades constitute an era of crime coldly and logically calculated, even justified as rational. Such crime now dominates the whole world. It enters into everyday preoccupations. It has become something normal, often commonplace. It has come to be accepted as natural, so that people no longer take cognizance of it or comprehend the real threat to the very existence of humanity. No one can have the patience to compile a list of all the crimes consummated in these 4 decades, nor could he do it in a lifetime. They would have to encompass the Civil War in post-Tsarist Russia with its forced collectivization, the crimes of which have since become well known and recognized as such by the world's leaders. They would have to include the Greek Civil War, in which the communists ravaged whole regions, also the so-called People's Tribunals that came into being after the war, the bombing of defenseless cities and hospitals, the present camps of slavery and death in all countries under communist control, Budapest in 1956. But all these are but a few chapters selected from the long story of unleashed evil. They prove either that man has come to feel the necessity to kill as intensely as he has felt the desire to live, or that through a logical perversion of a desire to accomplish an ideal he can easily, and with scarcely a twinge of conscience, be made to murder the very persons to whom he once intended to give happiness, destroy them in the conviction that this is what he must do, that there is no other way. All such crimes have one characteristic in common: they are perpetrated in the name of humanity, the class struggle, the liberation of the people, the right of the strongest, all at the discretion of the individual. They all have the same goal, the biological destruction of the enemy, a principle applied by Stalin with fanaticism. The dead cannot defend themselves, nor can they accuse. Such crimes have long been notorious and endlessly repeated. They have become commonplace and trite. But there is a deeper horror, one of which the world as yet knows nothing. What happened in the prisons of Romania after the nation was subjugated by the Soviets enlarged the domain of crime beyond what people believed possible. Crime has been expanded beyond the biological limits and placed on other coordinates and in a dimension heretofore unknown. Perpetrated in cold blood and cynically, with sadism never met before, crime now aims not to destroy the body, but the soul. The biological destruction of an adversary no longer satisfies, or pleases, or maybe it does not pay any more. The wrecking of the victim's mind and soul is more appealing and more useful, the destruction of human characteristics, the reduction of man to a level of total animality, a definitive dehumanization that transforms what was human into a docile, malleable protoplasm, instinctively responsive to all the trainer's whims, a zombie. What is about to be told is, I believe, a unique experience. But it did not spring from fancy, from a brain that had passed beyond the threshold of rationality. In order for it to be possible, a distinct evolution was necessary on a plane of thought, on a philosophic plane, through a long period of upheavals, of breaking down and replacing all values in which man has so far believed.